Canary by Cloud9 and 3/4. Chapter 15. The Underestimated. Midoriya was sitting in the corner of the changing room just outside the sports festival arena, his head in his hands. Oh my god, this is actually happening, his head screamed over and over again. Hey, Midoriya. He parted his fingers to catch a glimpse at Shinso's face. It'll be fine. Don't worry. He signed. I'm going to mess up. Also ridiculous. What if I... Everyone, we've got to head into the arena now. Oh, she sighed, unknowingly interrupting Midoriya's and Shinso's conversation. Midoriya gulped. You might want to take out those headphones then, Midoriya, she pointed out. Midoriya is allowed to wear them during the competition. Shinso snapped. It's to block out other sounds to make him less nervous. He explained, repeating the semi-lie that Hatsume had suggested. In reality, the headphones did far more than noise cancelling. Most of it was Hatsume's idea, really, but Midoriya, much to Hatsume's dismay, was the one who put the pieces together, so Mr. Power Loader had counted the support item as Midoriya's own. The green headphones connected to a wire that ran under his shirt to a small device tied around his upper arm, out of sight for now. It was a simple MP3 player with Canary's arsenal downloaded onto it. All he needed to do was choose a track and the music would play from the speakers attached to the headphones. There was a little microphone, too, currently concealed within the right side of the support item. It would turn on if he pulled it out, so his voice could be amplified across the stadium. The very thought terrified him. Fine, whatever, let's just get this out of the way. Their class president sighed, and the rest of the class began to file out of the room after her. Shinso held out his hand to pull Midoriya to his feet. He gladly accepted. His legs were shaking so much that he very much doubted he would be able to get up alone. Midoriya, Shinso repeated sternly. He realized he had been hyperventilating, his vision blurry and his body trembling like there had been an earthquake. But his friend put his hands on his shoulders, gripping on the cloth of his UA sports uniform. The touch was all that was holding Midoriya together. Keep your headphones on, he whispered, and you're in the radio station. Midoriya blinked at him, his breathing steadily slowing to a normal pace. Close your eyes. You're in the studio. You hear President Mike, right? No one else. You're in that booth with him, and I'm the only one who's tuned in. Got it? A wobbly smile spread across his face, and he nodded. Right, let's... Oh my god. Midoriya turned around. Siren! Sure enough, there was the little green bird perched on top of his bag, looking quite pleased with herself. Stay here, he ordered. Siren simply chirped at him. Shouldn't we? Started Shinso. She'll be fine, Midoriya insisted. Shinso grinned. Then let's go. Hey! President Mike yelled. Make some noise, all you rabbit sports fans! Get those cameras prepped! Media odds! This year, we're bringing you some of the honest performances in sports festival history, guaranteed! I've only got one question before we start the show. Are you ready? Let me hear you scream as our students make their way to the big stage! Shinso and Midoriya stood at the back of their class, waiting by their entrance to the stadium impatiently. This first group are no strangers to the spotlight! Continued President Mike. You know them, for we're standing in the Lunatic. The dazzling students lining up your TVs with solid gold scales. The hero course students of class 1A! The crowd roared as Kachan's class made their way into the arena. Midoriya had been thinking hard about them. This was the class he and Shinso would join if they did well. But to do that, Midoriya might end up having to face his childhood tormentor once again. They haven't been getting nearly as much screen time, but this next group is still chocked full of talent. Welcome, Hero Course Class 1B! That was the cue for the other Hero Course to make their way out into the open. Midoriya caught a glimpse of some of the students that had found his key card not that long ago. That'll be another issue he'd have to confront. Next up, General Studies classes C, D, and E. Support classes F, G, and H. And finally, business classes R, J, and K. Midoriya almost stumbled as he followed Shinso out into the stadium. His eyes rested on the crowd and, oh god, that's an awful lot of people. But they're not just here to make up the numbers. Amongst these students are potential stars desperate to catch your eye and make it into the hero course. That includes a little someone who goes by the name of Canary. But who could he be? Oh god, oh god, oh god. Give it up for all of UA's first year contestants! This was a mistake! Midoriya said frantically to Shinso. Shinso didn't reply, only grinning at him. Don't give me that look! Midoriya protested. I'm going to die! Now you're just being dramatic. Shinso sighed. I don't care what President Mike says. I get the feeling we're just here to make the hero students look better. Groaned Matsumoto. I can't wait for this to be over with, added Oshi with her usual grumpy flair. Midoriya noticed how Shinso narrowed his eyes at the back of their heads. He hoped President Mike wasn't only referring to Canary when he spoke about others wishing to get into the hero course. Now the introductory speech. It was midnight, standing on the stage before the students in her erotic hero costume. There was a lot of murmur about that, prompting her to demand the crowd's silence before announcing that Katsuki Bakugo would be performing the student pledge. This won't end well, Midoriya sighed to Shinso, who nodded in agreement. He's the first year rep? Gaped Mina, who wasn't standing far from them. Class 1C had ended up pretty close to Class 1A in the crowd of students. I guess that hothead did finish first in the entrance tests, sighed another hero student. Only for the hero course exams. Oh, she rudely interjected, pointing at Midoriya with her thumb. Midoriya waved feebly at them. Hey, wait, you came first for the general studies exams? Mina gaped. That girl obviously hates us, whispered the other student. If Oshi had heard him say that, she didn't make any indication. Midoriya was glad he had his headphones hanging around his neck rather than over his ears, or else he really wouldn't be able to hear anything at all. Oh yeah, and we got Bakugo to thank for them not liking our class, groaned a third 1A student. His childhood friend waltzed up to the stage, his hands in his pockets. He leaned into the microphone and said, I just want to say, I'm going to win. Midoriya jumped as the crowd broke out into hisses and boos. What did he say? Class 1A are so full of themselves. Get off the stage! Midoriya just sighed. Trust Kachan to say something like that. He saw Ida leap forwards, berating him while slapping the air furiously. Why would you be so disrespectful? You're representing us all! He exclaimed. Kachan just turned and gave him a thumbs down. Not my fault, the rest of you were just stepping stones to my victory. I can't wait to crush this overconfident jerk! Yelled that kid from Class 1B, the one who had shouted at him before when they were all crowding outside 1A's classroom. I can't wait to cut him down to size! Kanchan wandered down off the stage, looking as unbothered as before, as the rest of the year continued to shriek at him angrily. The two caught gazes for a moment as he walked past, purposefully knocking Midoriya's shoulder as he went. He seemed different from before. The Kanchan that Midoriya once knew would have laughed, making it all a joke. Something had changed in him. Perhaps he'd realized that he wasn't necessarily the best, not until he proved himself here at the sports festival. This was him pushing his limits, and making the rest of his class targets in the process. But that was good for Midoriya and Shinso. The world would take little notice of them. They could stay quiet, slip through the ranks until they were right near the top. Yeah, that just might work. Without further ado, it's time for us to get started. announced Midnight, her amplified voice booming over the disgruntled crowd of students. That was when they finally learned the nature of their fate. An obstacle course. Midoriya pulled his headphones over his ears deep in thought. A race around the outside of the arena? With wings, he could win that easily. Just fly over the obstacles ahead of everyone else. But then he'd draw attention to himself. They'd know he was Canary immediately, and the focus of the sports festival would shift from Class 1A to him. Would that really be a wise decision to make this early on in the competition? Or would it be safer to save wings for a little later? True, he did have a second song ready in order to use flight twice, but it was far weaker. Now then, take your places, contestants. Midoriya's legs were shaking as the crowd swept him towards the gate to the outside of the arena. When he finally came to a standstill, his eyes widened in panic as he glanced around. He couldn't see Shinso. Where did he go? No, focus. Focus. This is a competition. You're against Shinso too. He'll be okay. You'll see him on the other side. Right now, focus on your abilities. He told himself, clutching his headphones and pressing them close to his ears in hopes to block out the roar of the crowd. I can do this, Quirkless. Save my power for later. That way I won't tire myself out before the tournament round. If I can get that far. Begin! Oh, shoot. The doorway! The student body rammed past Midoriya's shoulders, desperate to push themselves through the gateway as fast as possible. It was just like when the press invaded campus and that alarm went off. No one could get anywhere at all. Midoriya hung back, panicked, as his mind raced over what he could possibly do to pass this without his quirk. He heard President Mike's voice ring out across the stadium. There was someone else with him. Was that a racer? Focus, focus, he told himself, and Midoriya hurried forwards to the back of the mob of competitors, all pushing and shoving as they desperately fought through. There was no way Midoriya would be able to get past on time. He shouldn't have hesitated. They were all packed together so tightly, enough to almost walk across. Oh, everyone's going to hate me. Whilst the cameras turned their focus to the students at the front, where one of which had just covered half the floor in ice, Midoriya took a few steps back and then charged at the back of the group. He silently thanked those once unnecessary flips and leaps he'd learnt during dance as he did a running jump. He twisted around, his hands grasping the shoulders of the closest competitor and flipping backwards over the heads of the students. Midoriya was light, but the force of him landing on someone's shoulders was still more than enough to knock them to the ground if they weren't prepared. People cried out in surprise as the small green-haired nobody from General Studies ran over the crowd, pushing himself off the wall and landing on top of person after person, expertly keeping his balance as the others did not. The crowd thinned as the row widened at the end of the doorway. Midoriya leapt towards the ground, but immediately slipped on the ice, which he had completely forgot about in the heat of the moment, knocking his headphones off as the side of his face connected painfully with the floor. Watch where you step, Midoriya. He scrambled to his feet as he looked for the origin of the voice. Shinso gave him a mock salute as he was carried like a king by several brainwashed strangers over the thick layer of ice. He turned towards the front, where a large group of hero students disappeared off into the distance. So they're good at using their quirks, he realized before turning back to Midoriya, who was now skating uncertainly by his side. You're not using yours, he signed with a frown. Too much attention, Midoriya barely managed. Maintaining his balance was now proving to be a little more of a challenge. Interesting tactic, he replied as numerous students shrieked in fright, sliding between them on the rapidly melting ice rink. Well, I'll see you at the end of this. No point in sticking together here. Midoriya nodded, readjusting his headphones once more and sliding away on the last of the ice. With firmer footing, Midoriya broke out at a run, dodging other competitors as he tried to get as far ahead as possible. If there had been anything Midoriya had learned from being quirkless, it was how to dodge and how to run. But he skidded to a halt as President Mike's voice rang out across the racetrack. The speaker was right next to him, enough for the sound to get through his headphones. He's never even fought those robots before, but they didn't stand a chance against his jaw-dropping moves, President Mike exclaimed. Wait, robots? Midoriya gaped at the towering figure figures up ahead. One of the giant monstrosities had collapsed in a cloud of dust and ice. What the show! Shoto Todoroki from Class 1A has taken the lead! Todoroki, huh? He must be the one with the ice quirk. Midoriya had more pressing matters than thinking about the Hero Course students, but he couldn't stop his mind from going on a tangent as he saw quirk after quirk. And it's Kirishima from Class 1A! What a hardcore debut from this rookie! Midoriya heard Present Mic continue as the red-headed boy pushed his way out from under the fallen robot, quickly followed by that Class 1B boy, whose name appeared to be Tetsu, who appeared to have a similar quirk. Hardening and Steel, Midoriya frowned as Present Mic announced the basics of their quirks over the speakers. They'd be tough opponents. Then there was the boy who grew scales on his arms. Midoriya wondered what he could do, and then Bakugo! Yelled another hero student as Kajan rocketed over the next robot with ease. Midoriya shook his head. He couldn't just keep standing around. He'd have to get through there somehow. Best do it when the robots are distracted. He let his headphones slide down to his shoulders to register the details Present Mic was reading out as he ran. Someone with a tape quirk. Another with something called Dark Shadow. Other students began to follow his lead, running through the robot obstacle as quickly as they could to catch up with the leaders.
Class 1A's learn not to hesitate,
Boomed an unfamiliar voice, on which Midoriya quickly realized belonged to Eraserhead. His eyes connected with that of Jiro, who smirked at him as she easily disabled two small robots. Midoriya had to sidestep to avoid the falling debris that Uraraka left in her wake, and the electric shock of another blonde classmate of hers. All these quirks are too distracting! He panicked internally as he took off at a run again, dodging and evading the best he could. That was when another hero student stole the spotlight with a massive explosion. She somehow materialized an entire cannon. Midoriya gaped at her as the robot she'd faced crumbled to the ground. Oh my god, that was so cool! With a path made through the obstacle, Midoriya somersaulted to avoid another robot and then charged past. This round is obviously designed to give the hero students a chance to show their stuff and to get ahead in the competition, so most of the other classes should be eliminated. With around 20 students per class and 11 classes, there's a maximum of 220 students in this race. They need 16 students for the tournament round and a decent number for the round before. Probably enough to involve all of the hero students plus the tops of the other departments, so 40, maybe 50 students will advance. So maybe I should aim for the top 40 at least. Midoriya froze, wobbling over the edge of a sheer drop and stumbling backwards.
Everyone, observe what my brilliant gadgets can do.
Midoriya blinked and turned to see Hatsume giggling maniacally before the gathering crowd, headed by Uraraka and Mina.
Hey!
Mina exclaimed,
How come you got to bring all that stuff? Students in the hero course get all kinds of combat training for their quirks.
Hatsume leered.
In order to keep things fair and give us a fighting chance, we're allowed to bring whatever gadgets and costumes we want into the games, so long as we develop them ourselves. Ain't that right, Midoriya?
Mina and Uraraka turned to see Midoriya, who was now standing with crossed arms and narrowed eyes by one of the ropes, which was connected at the cliff edge to the next rock across the terrifyingly high obstacle.
Midoriya?
Mina frowned, likely not at all expecting him to be there. He sighed, twisted his headphones around his neck using a mechanism that Hatsume had designed so it wouldn't fall off, and carefully lowered himself down to the rope to start pulling himself over the drop.
My super cute little babies are sure to make a splash.
He heard Hatsume proclaim as she whizzed past him with her bundle of gadgets, laughing hysterically as she went.
Watch out, Midoriya.
He looked back to see Shinzo standing at the edge of his rope. If Midoriya wasn't still trying to keep his voice a secret, he would have yelled, How the heck did you catch up with me so quickly? Instead, he kept his thoughts inside his head and simply pouted, pulling his angry little lion face as Shinzo followed his lead and grasped onto the rope himself.
Those hero students are widening the gap between us,
Shinzo murmured to Midoriya as he helped him up off the first rope, and the two of them made their way to the second. We only need to make it to the top 40, Midoriya signed whilst his hands were free.
Really? What makes you think that?
I'm not 100% sure,
Midoriya whispered in reply.
it's only an assumption.
Are you sure you don't want to use your quirk yet? You could just use your wings and finish this race without any trouble.
I'm positive. We can get through this without it. Soon enough, the two of them were at the other side panting as they both started running once more, the muscles in their arms aching from the effort.
The rest of the competitors are catching up too!
President Mike yelled over the race course.
Midoriya and Shinso froze once more as their eyes came to rest over the final obstacle.
A minefield? Shinzo gaped. Seriously, what is wrong with this school?
And what's this? Can our two leaders fight each other and stay in front of the competition?
President Mike continued as the two general studies students carefully began to hop over the buried mines.
Go ahead.
Shinso insisted. Midoriya almost fell on a mine in surprise.
I'll use my quirk to get through this. I know you're faster than me.
He grinned.
See you at the finish line.
Midoriya nodded and then charged ahead of his friend, using the same fancy footwork that he'd put into action at the very beginning of the obstacle course in order to evade the various explosions and lumps of the hidden mines.
Todoroki and Bakugo are neck and neck for the lead and knocking on the finish line!
President Mike announced. Midoriya vaguely wondered if the hero was looking for him over the mass of students reaching the end of the minefield. He gritted his teeth as he finally rolled out of the minefield, running alongside the vaguely familiar faces of the hero course as he charged back towards the stadium where the screaming audience awaited.
The first to make it back to the arena is the first place winner! Shoto Todoroki is our champion!
Midoriya fell to his knees, sweating and panting by the gate. He couldn't have been that far behind. Surely he was in the clear.
The contestants are now pouring in one after the other!
Midoriya raised his head, staring at the booth he knew his mentor was sitting in. He could see the tip of his outrageous hairdo. He smiled.
Let's hear some applause for all our competitors as we prepare the results!
Midoriya, you made it.
Shinzo panted as he hurried over to him.
Still a shame. You could have left all those hero wannabes in your dust if you used your quirk.
Midoriya smiled meekly. Well, let's just hope we've done enough. And they had. 22nd place wasn't bad at all for Midoriya, and Shinso seemed satisfied enough with 27th.
We beat so many of the hero course students.
Shinzo breathed. I think all of the hero students got through, Midoriya realized.
Who else? Us. Oh, there's Hatsume. And over there, I don't know who that is.
Class 1K, I think that one who Jiro mentioned was expelled from Class 1A.
The purple midget? No wonder he was kicked out. He looks more interested in the girls than actual heroics.
Shinso sneered as the boy in question was levered away from a girl's back.
He seemed to have stuck himself there, forcing her to carry him over the finishing line. Now the real fun is about to begin. The chance to fully move yourselves into the limelight. Give it your best, Midnight announced as the top 42 contestants were gathered before her. Let's see what we have in store for you next.
A cavalry battle?
Groaned one of the hero students. I'm terrible at those. Allow me to explain, Midnight exclaimed. The participants will form teams of 2 to 4 people as they see fit.
We could go in a team of 2,
Shinso suggested, beginning to plot before Midnight had even finished explaining the rules. It seems like I'd have 100 points and you'd have 75, Midoriya sighed absent-mindedly as he thought over the maths in his head. And the point value assigned to the first place contestant is 10 million.
Midoriya didn't miss that sadistic grin that spread across Shinso's face as he glared in Todoroki's direction.
Interesting.
Now you've got 15 minutes to build your teams, Midnight finished after further explaining the rules. I recommend you get started. We'd have 175 points together. Likely not enough to make it through to the next round if we don't steal any other headbands.
And there's no way I'm carrying you alone. Midoriya piped in. I could carry you. You're light as a feather. Shinso joked. Midoriya just elbowed him harshly. There's no point in asking anyone else, sighed Shinso. None of these hero students are going to want to.
Who said anything about hero students?
Midoriya turned and suddenly Hatsume was right in his face. He shrieked as she exclaimed,
I get you now!
What are you talking about? Shinso frowned, glaring daggers at her for interrupting.
Both of you! You are in on the hero course, don't you?
They exchanged glances. Hatsume laughed evilly.
And you, specifically! They might not have eyes on you now, but they will!
She rubbed her hands together.
I didn't realize it first, but then I listened to the radio last night, and I know that voice anywhere!
Shut up, would you? Shinso hissed. She waved him off.
Oh, don't worry! A big reveal on camera will be far more effective. And when you do, they'll look back at what you've been doing in the sports festival and see my marvelous gadgets along the way. I would have teamed up with first place, but he seems to have made up his mind already.
Midoriya turned to Shinso. This could work. What do you think? Shinso glared at her again before giving in and sighing deeply. Fine.
Then let me show you my babies!
You're... what? What about some of the people in the hero course? Midoriya questioned. You know they won't want to team up with us, Shinso pointed out. Those who know the truth about me might.
What's he saying?
Hatsume asked Shinso shamelessly.
I don't know the secret hand language.
Shinso groaned, ignoring her and turning back to Midoriya. Go and ask, but I seriously doubt they'll team up. Midoriya hesitated, unsure about venturing off without Shinso, but then nodded when Hatsume assaulted his friend with her assortment of inventions, screaming off to avoid her onslaught for a little longer. Midoriya was used to how people tended not to notice him, weaving through the crowd of plotting hero students. More than once he bumped shoulders and stepped on a few toes. He kept mouthing sorry whilst signing it in the process in hopes that they'd get the message. He pushed past a group of 1B students, smiling broadly as he spotted Ida on the other side. But that smile quickly faded when he saw him conversing with the boy with the 10 million points, plotting their next moves with the newly formed team. Next, he tried Uraraka. She wasn't far away from Ida, near Jiro, but then the two of them had two, alongside one of Jiro's friends, the boy with the bird head. Uraraka waved excitedly at Midoriya, beckoning him over, but he just smiled meekly in return, pointing at Shinso and Hatsume at the other side of the crowd. In understanding, she nodded and waved once more, turning back to her teammates to strategize. Midoriya bit his lip. Shinso had been right after all. None of the hero students would want him. He walked right into someone this time, but he was large, built like a rock, so he barely stumbled as Midoriya fell to the ground. He rubbed his head, but looked up and saw the student holding out his hand to help him up. He smiled and gladly accepted it. Sorry, he mouthed and signed again. The boy did the same and turned away. Midoriya was heading back to Shinso when he froze. Wait, he knew sign! He turned on his heel and ran back to the unfamiliar hero student. Midoriya had to stand on his tippy toes to tap him on the shoulder. Do you have a team? He blinked at Midoriya, surprised by his reappearance. Do you? Yes! I mean, there's three of us. You could join and make it four. Midoriya offered excitedly. He was actually talking to someone new. Well, kind of talking, but it was so easy. No fidgeting with his fingers as he signed or shuffling about in panic. I'm sorry, do I know you? I'm from General Studies. I have my classmate in my team and a friend from support. I understand if you don't want to team up with us, though. He hesitated and then smiled. It was a strange smile, but a warm one, nonetheless. I'm Kota, he whispered, holding out his hand for Midoriya to shake. Midoriya, he said at an equally low volume, taking his hand eagerly. What's your quirk? If you don't mind me asking. He continued to sign as they wandered back over to Shinso and Hatsume. I can give orders to animals, he admitted shyly. I know it's strange not talking to humans, but talking to animals. No, I completely understand. Humans are different. But animals, they always understand. Well, not understand, but will understand your emotions. Not necessarily the words.
Okay, this was new. The word vomit or sign.
What the heck are you on about?
Shinzo interjected, raising an eyebrow at him.
Oh, this is Koda.
Midoriya eagerly explained while Hatsumi just watched on in bewilderment. He turned to Koda.
Wait, what's your sign name?
I don't have one, Billy. I've never spoken to someone else who knows sign like this before.
And now there's 3 of you.
Hatsume laughed.
So, big guy, if you're joining us, come here so I can set you up with some of my super cute babies.
Sorry about her.
Shinzo signed.
What's it quick?
He speaks to animals and can control them. Midoriya replied, bouncing up and down in excitement. It was such an incredible quirk.
Shinzo furrowed his brow in deep thought. What animals can you use here, though?
Koda panicked and looked down at his feet in shame. He looked rather menacing at first glance, but in reality, he was far from it. They are scared off by the crowd. I'm sorry, my quirk can't help you. I won't join your team if you don't want me anymore.
Shinzo rolled his eyes and pinched his brow. No, Midoriya's not using his quirk yet, anyway. Besides, you'd make a strong front horse if you're still in.
Koda wavered, but then clenched his fists and nodded frantically.
Good.
Shinzo sighed.
Then all we need to do is decide if it's me or Midoriya that'll be the rider.
Midoriya wasn't keen on being the rider. The more he was out of the spotlight, the better. But if he ended up needing to use his quirk, then being on top would have the greatest strategic advantage, especially if...
Midoriya, you're muttering.
Shinzo interjected with a smirk.
Midoriya blinked at him in surprise.
He had? He was muttering? An alarm rang out over the stadium. Their time was up.
Right, Midoriya, you be the rider.
Shinzo insisted as Hatsume immediately began to attach her various gadgets to his legs.
Hatsume and I will go either side of you whilst Koda stands at the front. Okay?
Okay, all you firsters!
Present Mike exclaimed as Midoriya was clumsily lifted on top of the group.
I hope you're happy with your chosen teams!
We need to hang back, Midoriya whispered to the 3 of them, tying his 300-point headband securely around his head. Everyone will go straight for the 10 million points, so it would be easier to just collect smaller handbands to work our way up to the top.
3!
Get back, Midoriya! Uraraka called from her team, standing alongside his.
2!
He smiled and waved again, desperately hoping they wouldn't run straight for him.
1!
Begin! Midnight finished and Uraraka's team rocketed ahead right towards Todoroki and the 10 million points. Midoriya let out a sigh of relief as his team stood still, assessing the competition from a distance instead of engaging in combat quite yet. We may have a good amount of points, Midoriya continued to whisper, but as students from different departments, the other teams are likely to underestimate us and leave us alone for now. We should wait until the other headbands move around before... That was when his headband was pulled from him barely a minute after the game had begun. Sorry, droned a blonde boy from Class 1B, but the lot of you were never going to hang around for long anyway. He grinned as his team hurried away.
You will come to regret those words,
Shinzo yelled back at him in hot pursuit of the team.
He grinned and opened his mouth. Oh, well...
Midoriya, now!
Shinzo yelled as his quirk took a hold of their opponent. Midoriya reached forward and grasped a handful of headbands from around his neck. Manama! Exclaimed one of the boys' teammates. What the heck? Shinzo released his power as they ran away, desperate to make some distance between them.
Did you get our original headband back?
He asked Midoriya, who glanced down at the white strips of fabric and nodded surely.
Good, now we should...
Ah! And another team lunged towards them.
Activate rehearsals!
Hatsume announced gleefully as the inventions she had designed let their team hover a few feet off the ground. Secondly, a small grappling hook was fired from her side, and without warning, she clicked the button and set the group flying across the arena straight towards the wall where her invention had fastened itself. How they managed to stay in one piece was beyond Midoriya, as Hatsume reeled her baby back in, and Koda groaned quietly after being forced to dig his feet into the ground to stop them from running out of bounds.
Now, who wants to look at each student's points so far? President Mike yelled eagerly, and the scoreboard lit up before a surprise gasp from the crowd. Hold on there! This is an unexpected turn! Other than Todoroki, Class 1A is not doing so hot! Midoriya quickly scanned the arena, his eyes resting on the members of Class 1B, who were snatching headbands from their sister class left and right. Even Gachan had fallen behind. As expected, Shinzo grumbled. Everyone's so focused on Class 1A that they've forgotten about everyone else. But they're using that to their advantage, Midoriya muttered. Just like us.
Ah! Azuma exclaimed. No one's paying attention to my beautiful babies! We simply have to get to the next round so I can prove my worth!
You're not the only one who has to prove themselves, Shinzo snapped as they charged forward, unsure of where to go. There was so much going on. Teams descended on Todoroki as Gachans charged ferociously at Manamas. Class 1B are all working together, Midoriya gaped. Not for long, Shinzo frowned. Whatever trap they'd pulled to keep Gachan at bay didn't last long, but Midoriya couldn't pay attention to that because Todoroki was on the move. We could go for the 10 million points, Shinzo suggested. No, it's too risky, contradicted Midoriya. They're plotting something. And they were. Soon enough, Midoriya saw the girl with the creation quirk pull a thick blanket over the heads of her teammates and the electric hero student light up beside her. Hatsumi! Make us hover again, quickly! Midoriya cried. She didn't question his judgment, and the team was lifted off the ground as electricity buzzed around them. Midoriya could feel the power run through him and the static buzz around the air, but no pain frazzled his nerves. What the heck? Shinzo gaped as he watched every other team cry out in pain as they were shocked by Todoroki's team. We're not grounded, Midoriya explained. That means we can't be electrocuted. As long as we keep our feet off the ground, he can't hurt us. The ice came next, spreading under their feet as the other teams were frozen in place, practically knocking them out of the competition. This is our chance, Shinzo mumbled. If we collect the headbands of the frozen teams, we should be able to get through this stupid round. But they weren't the only ones following that line of reasoning. Midoriya could see Uraraka's team ahead, picking up the headbands before they could even try. Now what, should we attack? We never told them about my quirk. Shinzo continued, the threat lingering amongst his words. Midoriya glanced around, desperate for his eyes to see a miraculous answer to their problems. If only... Koda! He exclaimed. Over there! There's a bird! He yelled at his squeaky voice, his anxiety fading as quickly as Midoriya's had. The bird took off from the stands and flew towards them, its tweets loud to the roar of the stadium. Wait. Shinzo frowned. Isn't that... Midoriya grinned widely. Siren! Siren was a peculiar bird. She had always known that. The other birds don't seem to see the world the way she did. They saw the insides of their cages and saw humans as sources of food. But more importantly, they saw singing as nothing more than a method of flirting. Girl canaries aren't meant to sing, her first human had told her. She was nice, but didn't understand Siren. No one understood her. Singing was fun. There was more uses for it than just as a mating call. Humans used noises all the time. Siren had spent much of her life learning to connect those noises with very specific things. Humans were clever, not like canaries. But some humans didn't use their smarts very well. They were silly. Siren found it annoying. But she liked her new human very much. He gave her a new name. She liked it at first, but then she learned what it meant. Now she likes it even more. This human understands her, and she understood him even if he didn't quite realize it himself yet. Something else she understood was that her human needed help. He can sing too, but he's scared to, like the other canaries were. Siren has to teach him not to be scared anymore. He was doing better, but he was scared that morning, very scared. Of course, Siren had to protect him. She wouldn't be a very good guardian if she didn't. That was what she thought of herself as, a guardian. Specifically, her human's guardian, and maybe some of his friends too. She followed him all the way to this very big, very loud place. There weren't any other birds there. It was too loud. But most of the humans didn't seem to mind, so neither should Siren. It took her a while to understand what all these humans were doing. They were playing games like children and watching for some reason. But her human had been telling her how important this sports festival thing was. It must be the sports festival then. In which case, she must make sure her human does well. She can't do that by just sitting and waiting by his portable nest. Very useful things they were. It had books and food and other unnecessary things in it. But it was yellow. Yellow was Siren's second favorite color. Her human seemed to have made a new friend. Two, actually. But Siren was more focused on the big one who called out to her. He had a very incising voice. It was nice. Not as nice as her human's voice, but still nice. Siren, you have to help us, her human told her as she hovered before them. Hello, Siren, said the new friend. We need to get headbands. Headbands? Those cloth things? You already have two. Why must you get more? Siren replied. She knew this new friend could understand her words. She couldn't explain how she knew. She just did. We need better ones to win this game. Ah, yes, winning is good. Winning will make my human happier. Where is the better one? I must have the better one. Kona, I have an idea. Siren's human suddenly exclaimed. If we can get Siren to follow the 10 million point headband, she could steal it last minute and take it to us. I can steal. Oh, thank you, Siren. Yes, it looks like the one on Midoriya's head, but with a bigger number on it. Lots and lots of red numbers. Can you get that one for us? I will steal. Good, but you have to wait for us to tell you to do it, okay? Her human told her. She tweeted back at him and flew to his head nest. That was her favorite nest of all. You understand her too? The new friend frowned as they all ran across the arena. Oh no, I just guess. Siren's human was very good at guessing. Do we really have to have this conversation now? Exclaimed the purple friend. Siren liked the purple friend because her human liked the purple friend. Purple was Siren's third favorite color now. They hurried around in circles for a while. Siren didn't quite get why they were taking so long. She wanted to steal. Time for the countdown! Oh, she recognized that voice. That was Loud Human. She liked that human too. Where was he? Siren, now! Yelled her human. Yes! She chirped and took flight. Siren had been watching, looking for the lots and lots of red numbers headband. She saw it with the icy human. He had it for a while. He wasn't very happy when the spiky-eared human took it. Siren narrowed her eyes as she flew over. She didn't like Spiky Human. She called him Explosion Human, but she would find a better name for him one day. One with a better ring to it. Siren didn't like the color red so much. This human was very red. But she must take the lots and lots of red numbers headband. After this, maybe she would like the color red more. If red meant winning, then maybe she did like red. Explosion Human hadn't seen her. He was focusing on Icy Human. They were all acting very strange, piled on top of each other and running around the place. But Siren couldn't wonder about that later. Right now, she could see her lots and lots of red numbers headband. Explosion Human had turned the headband around so the lots and lots of red numbers weren't facing the Icy Human. That was very important because it meant that Siren could very easily see it. She decided that she definitely liked numbers. She was still considering the color red. Loud Human was shouting lots, and Icy Human kept lunging at her lots and lots of red numbers headband. The Explosion Human fiddled with it, turning it so Siren could see the knot holding it together. Yes, Siren was very good at undoing things, and so she grasped the headband with her talons. Yes, they were talons. If you disagreed, she would show you why they were talons, and flew away with it. There was lots and lots of shouting then. She flew over the arena and back to her human, who grasped the lots and lots of red numbers headband, pulled it around his head, and time's up! And all the humans roared. And her human was grinning. That was good. She should steal things more often. She would do anything for her human. Her human was green.
green was Siren's favorite color.